Revealed, the heartwarming secret of the poor plumber who was actually an incredible billionaire. In the charming little suburb of Maple Grove, Jake was known as the humble plumber, the cheerful man who fixed leaks with a smile on his face and love in his heart. At 35, he was a dedicated father, juggling his long hours with the needs of his two energetic kids while his wife, Sarah, kept the household running like a well-oiled machine. Almost everyone in the neighborhood had his number on speed dial, and whenever a pipe burst or a toilet backed up, he was there, often with the children at his side, ready to lend a hand. His laughter echoed through the streets, bringing warmth even during the grimmest of plumbing emergencies. But what they didn't see was the sacrifice he made each day, skipping lunches, piecing together every penny to make ends meet, while inwardly, a secret weight pressed down upon him. As spring bloomed in Maple Grove, the residents celebrated the beauty of flowering dogwoods and cheerful block parties filled with family laughter. Yet, tension simmered just below the surface, a storm brewing as a wealthy developer announced ambitious plans to tear down the beloved homes for luxury condos. The news crashed like thunder, igniting outrage among neighbors unwilling to trade their family roots for corporate greed. As the crowd gathered, voices raised in protest, a turmoil twisted in Jake's gut. He lived a paradox, their trusted plumber who quietly held the fate of the neighborhood's future in his billionaire hands. Whispers weaved through the air at town hall meetings, neighbors struggling to fight for their homes, while Jake watched the developers sneer at their passions, treating them as mere speed bumps in his path to profit. His heart raced, torn between the life of commonality he'd chosen and the riches he'd buried deep within. Jake felt like a ghost in his own life. Thoughts swirled, a painful reminder of what he could reveal, yet the fear of losing the very community he sought to protect twisted the knife deeper. The crowd buzzed, eyes darting between each other with dread and indignation as the room fell silent and the floor was open for questions. Underneath the glaring fluorescent lights, Jake's internal battle escalated, anxiety gripping him like a vice. He looked for Sarah in the crowd, her eyes shone with a mix of pride and worry, urging him silently to take the leap. Then, the developer's cutthroat remark struck a chord, and Jake's heart thundered, thumping in his chest like a war drum. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With determination flooding his veins, Jake took a deep breath and approached the microphone. Eyes shifted, mouth gaped, silent expectations hung heavy in the air. He could feel the community's trust on the line, and his heart swelled with the sheer responsibility of it. I know what you're all feeling, he started, pouring out the essence of the neighborhood's value and the life that danced within its roots. But just as his voice cracked with conviction, another wave of tension crashed. That very truth he'd hidden soared to the surface. Jake stood on the precipice of his decision, battling the storm of uncertainty. The truth about his wealth loomed, threatening to break free and shatter this facade. Would his revelation ignite hope or destroy the bonds he'd forged? The community's eyes fixed on him, leaving every soul in the room breathless and teetering on the brink of the unknown, desperate to know what would happen next in this gripping tale of identity and allegiance. Jake's heart raced, the pulse echoing in his ears. He felt the weight of 1,000 stares drilling into him. The crowd, packed tight in that small room, was a mix of hope and fear. He could almost hear their unspoken questions ringing like alarm bells. Who was he really? What was he going to say? He gripped the microphone, his knuckles whitening. With a shaky breath, he glanced at Sarah again. Her eyes were filled with encouragement, but did she realize the storm brewing inside him? Would revealing his truth be the end of everything they'd built in Maple Grove? Listen, everyone. Jake's voice began strong, but it faltered as he hesitated, the reality of his words hitting him hard. I care about this community, about each and every one of you, and I've been keeping something from you. A murmur ran through the crowd. Anticipation mixed with confusion. Jake took a deep breath, closing his eyes for a heartbeat to summon courage. I'm more than just your plumber. I have a secret. I'm a billionaire. Gasps filled the room. Jake's stomach churned as whispers erupted, confusion and disbelief etched across his neighbors' faces. Had he just thrown a grenade into their lives? His palms grew sweaty as he forced himself to continue. I didn't choose to share this because I wanted to live among you all, to feel what it's like to be just another person, to live without the expectations that wealth carries. Don't you mean live off our backs? A voice shouted from the back, a friend turned adversary, and a wave of fiery agreement rippled through the crowd. Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks. No. No. He called out, raising his hands for silence. This isn't what I intended. Yes, I've been blessed with wealth, but I chose plumbing to stay connected, to have purpose. His voice trembled with emotion. I'm here to support this community and to protect it. I swear. I want to help. But how do we know you're not just another developer? Another voice shot back, fueling the tension. Jake's heart sank. Could he blame them? After all, they didn't see the real him. All they saw was a billionaire in disguise. Sarah stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. This has been a difficult journey for him. He's just as scared to share this as you are to hear it. But he's here now, standing in front of you. That means something. Her sincerity enveloped the crowd, and for a fleeting moment, Jake felt hope flickering. But doubt lingered thick in the air. He needed to prove himself and earn back their trust. I promise you, I'll do whatever it takes to help save our homes. I'll fight this developer. I'll use my resources to protect Maple Grove, to ensure we stay part of this beautiful neighborhood. Jake declared, desperation tinging his voice. For a heartbeat, the room simmered with uncertainty. Would they accept him? Would his truth unify them, or would it tear their bond apart? The murmur grew louder as neighbors exchanged glances, searching for answers, their faces a mix of anger, pity, and fear. Each look pierced Jake's heart deeper. But the moment stretched, and a voice finally broke through. Prove it. And just like that, a new wave of determination washed over Jake. This would not be the end, but the beginning of something that could redefine everything. But could he really navigate this fragile path while keeping the community's trust? As anticipation hung thick in the air, Jake realized the journey ahead would be anything but easy. Would he be able to heal the rift he'd caused? The weight of questions loomed over him, chaining his every thought. He knew what was needed, but did he have the strength to do it? The next chapter in Maple Grove was about to unfold, but only time would tell if a single plumber's revelation could weave a community back together. The air crackled with tension. Jake's heart thudded painfully loud against his ribcage. Those eyes. They were all on him. What had he just done? The challenge echoed in his mind. Prove it. It wasn't just a voice, it was a call to action. In the silence that followed, Jake scanned the crowd, his friends, neighbors, and familiar faces he'd shared decades with. He took a breath, grounding himself in the reality of the situation. The challenges ahead felt monumental, but he couldn't back down. Not now. Okay, he said, cheeks flushed and voice steadying. I'll prove it. Let us start with the developer. His words ignited a flame of interest, and the murmurs shifted from doubt to curiosity. What's your plan? Someone shouted, and he could sense the shift, the crowd leaning in, wanting to connect. I know their tactics, Jake replied, feeling the certainty rolling inside him. They want to raise our homes for a profit. But together, we can stop them. He strolled to the center of the room, every step fueled by the rising energy he felt. We have the power of community behind us. I'll bring my resources, my connections. We can form a committee, campaign, raise awareness. We can fight back. The crowd began to ripple with a new energy. Murmurs of agreement mixed with skepticism, but the weight of animosity began to lift. Sarah moved closer, her hand brushing against his, and for a moment, he drew strength from her presence. We can hold community meetings, she suggested, boldly stepping to his side. Let us gather everyone with shared concerns. Listen to their stories. Show them they're not alone. Jake nodded vigorously, heartwarming at her unwavering support. Exactly. We can share our stories and create a powerful voice in this town. If we unite, they can't ignore us. The spirit of cooperation buzzed, charging the atmosphere with hope. Some in the audience exchanged glances, and he saw the embers of belief igniting. But had they truly turned? Okay, let us say we believe you, a voice echoed from the back, steel lacing each word. What happens when you leave? What is to stop you from picking up and disappearing with all your money? Jake felt the familiar heat prickling his skin. It was a valid concern, and he couldn't just dodge it. I've built my life here. It's about more than just this plumbing business, it's my family, my friends. I'm here for the long haul. I promise. He stood, waiting for a response, his heart thundering louder than before. Would they trust him? Slowly, hands began to raise. I want to help, a neighbor said, voice raw with emotion. But how do we start? Jake let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. This was it. Let us hold a meeting right here in a week, he declared, adrenaline lighting up his veins. We'll invite everyone who wants to fight for Maple Grove. We'll plan our response, come up with strategies. We can even draft a petition. His words tumbled into the room like drops of rain on parched soil, and he saw nods of agreement begin to ripple. How will we fund this? Another voice interjected, breaking through the excitement. I'll provide the initial funds, Jake replied, drawing strength from Sarah's approving nod. We can fundraise, get donations. I'm ready to invest in our community. As the conversation started to bounce with energy, Jake felt something he never expected, acceptance. The crowd was transforming from a group of angry faces into a rallying force. Around him, hands were raised, ideas began flowing, and new hope crackled like static in the air. He felt alive, connected, and more real than ever. Jake took a deep breath, smiling for the first time since he stepped onto the stage. Together, we can save our homes. We can protect Maple Grove. But just as excitement surged in the air, a chilling thought gripped him. What if they actually succeeded? What would happen once he was fully revealed as a billionaire? Would they still see him as their friend or merely as a means to an end? As the meeting broke into animated conversation, Jake stood at the edge, contemplating the next steps. Could he really navigate this delicate balance? Would he be able to maintain the connection to the community he had fought so hard to preserve? With questions swirling in his mind and excitement buzzing around him, Jake felt an unexpected surge of both hope and fear. The true test of his resolve was just about to begin. How far would he have to go to bridge the gap between his past and the community's future? The room buzzed with newfound energy, but Jake felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him like a heavy fog. Conversations flowed around him, a mix of laughter and discussions about strategies to confront the developer. Yet, his own thoughts spiraled, caught between the hopeful faces in front of him and the fear of being exposed. Sarah's laughter cut through his turmoil. She was animatedly discussing potential community events, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. That glint in her gaze melted some of the ice around his heart. He took a moment to steady himself before stepping closer. You really think we can pull this off? He asked, his voice a low murmur. Her smile widened. Absolutely. Look at them. They're ready to fight. They just needed a spark. He felt a flicker of hope as he glanced around the room, every person engaged, every face a reflection of determination. They were beginning to believe. The fear inside him flared again, sharper this time. What if it all fell apart? What if they discovered he wasn't just a handyman but a rich man playing the role of a savior? Jake! A voice suddenly called, snapping him from his reverie. It was Mr. Henderson, a tall man with silver hair who'd lived across the street for years. What about the town hall? We could get our message out there. They can't ignore us if we make a scene. Yes. Jake felt a sudden rush of adrenaline. An event at the town hall. We can rally support, gather signatures for a petition. The more noise we make, the harder it will be for the developer to brush us aside. The crowd erupted into chatter, excitement pulsing in the air. Jake stepped back, momentarily overwhelmed. He could feel the energy crackling like a live wire. "I think we should do it next week," Sarah suggested, glancing at Jake for confirmation. "Yes. In a week." Jake called out, feeling the momentum grow. The room transformed, flaring with ideas as people began to brainstorm. But deep down, an unsettling awareness gnawed at him. They saw him as their ally now, but how long would that last? Every cheerful face might change if his truth came to light. The idea lingered like a dark shadow in the corner of his mind. As thoughts swirled, another voice broke through. "But how will we get the word out? If this developer is as ruthless as you say, they'll try to silence us. Flyers, social media, whatever it takes." Jake responded, his heart thumping as he spoke. "We want to be quiet." The room buzzed in agreement. "Okay, let us divide into teams," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the excitement. "We'll tackle outreach, fundraising, and planning the event." Jake nodded, his spirit lifting. They were forming a battle plan, rallying for their homes. But as he watched the crowd disperse into teams, his hands shaking slightly, the reality of what lay ahead slumped on his shoulders. Would the community still stand by him when the truth emerged? Would any of this matter if his past came crashing down? That night, alone in his dimly lit living room, Jake combed through the list of community members he'd known for so long. They had shared dinners, had watched their kids grow, wiped tears from cheeks when tragedy struck. They had been family. How could he risk losing that? With every hope he dekindled, the potential for destruction lurked in his heart. Would they ever be able to bridge that chasm? Would he be enough for them? He took a deep breath, grasping at the threads of hope that wove through his worries. It was the moment he'd been waiting for, and yet, uncertainty loomed over him like thunderclouds before a storm. Just then, the phone buzzed, breaking his reverie. It was a message from Sarah. "Meeting at my place tomorrow to plan. Don't be late." A flicker of warmth ran through him. She still believed in him, and maybe that was enough to keep him fighting for them all. But as he lay down that night, staring at the ceiling, one question echoed louder than any other. Could he really merge the two worlds he so desperately wanted to connect? Jake closed his eyes, knowing the real battle had only just begun. Would he be the hero they needed or the enemy they feared? The next day arrived with the sun peeking through Jake's curtains, casting soft rays onto his anxious face. He rolled out of bed, his mind still tangled in doubt as he prepared for the meeting at Sarah's. Each step felt heavier, each breath a reminder of the secret he carried like a weight on his shoulders. That he arrived at Sarah's house, the door wide open, laughter and chatter spilling into the air like a warm invitation. The smell of coffee filled the space, mingling with the distant scent of breakfast cooking. Jake paused at the threshold, watching as familiar faces gathered around a large table, papers strewn everywhere, their hands flying with excitement. "Jake! You made it." Sarah noticed him first, her smile brightening the room. She waved him over. "Of course," he replied, though his heart raced with trepidation. As he joined the group, he couldn't shake the feeling of being an imposter amid their genuine enthusiasm. They surrounded him, Mr. Henderson, the quiet but resolute Sylvia from 2 doors down, and even little Tommy, who had just lost his first tooth. To them, he was their hero, a figure of strength. But for Jake, the deeper he delved into this role, the more exposed he felt. "All right, let us get started." Sarah clapped her hands to gather their attention. "We have 1 week. This is our chance to make a real impact." Ideas shot around the table like firecrackers. They discussed possible speakers, the layout of the town hall, invitations to local media. Jake listened, a knot tightening in his stomach. Each suggestion pulsed in his mind, a reminder of how much they relied on him. And yet, there was a whisper he couldn't silence, warning him that his truth could unravel this fragile unity. "Jake, what do you think?" Sarah asked, pulling him back into focus. "You've got experience with these kinds of things." Jake swallowed hard, fighting against the growing unease. "Yeah, we should definitely have someone the community trusts speak first. Maybe someone from the council?" he suggested, keeping his voice steady. Great idea. Sylvia chimed in, her eyes bright with hope. I can reach out to Councilman Lee. He loves the local events. As they continued to lay out their plans, Jake felt a surge of camaraderie wash over him. Beneath the fog of his fear, there was a glimmer of pride. They were all in this together, fighting for something bigger than themselves. But would that ring true if they found out who he really was? Later, while the others were busy organizing materials, Jake grabbed a moment to himself at the back porch. The cool breeze brushed against his face, bringing clarity with it. He reminded himself of the stakes, the homes, the community, the lives at risk. It was no longer just about his secret, it was about their future. Hey, everything all right? Sarah's voice interrupted his thoughts, and he turned to find her standing just beside him, concern etched across her face. Yeah, just thinking, he said, forcing a smile. What are you scared of? She asked, her tone soft but direct. His heart raced. Should he tell her? But before he could form the words, her eyes locked onto his, radiating understanding and support. It was then he realized he wasn't alone. This community had not only welcomed him but had also shown him what support truly felt like. I just want to make sure we're doing everything right, he finally admitted, the tension slipping slightly from his shoulders. I know we will, she replied, reaching out to squeeze his arm. We'll do this together. As the meeting drew to a close, Jake gathered his bags, the adrenaline of the day swirling inside him. Maybe he could fight against the developer and save the community he cherished while still keeping his secret hidden. The idea was tempting, but he also felt a gnawing discomfort in the pit of his stomach. Later that night, after everyone dispersed, he stood in his empty living room, contemplating his next move. The events were set in motion, but doubts lingered like shadows in the corners. Could he let them down if they ever found out who he truly was? Just as he sank into the weight of these thoughts, a new message blipped on his phone. This one wasn't from Sarah. It was a name that sent chills down his spine. Hi Jake, we need to talk. It's urgent. What did this mean? Was his past creeping back in to destroy everything he had worked for? Jake felt the walls close in around him. All those carefully built hopes were suddenly at risk of crumbling. He had to decide. Would he face the shadow of his past, or would he run from the very fight he had helped ignite? Jake's heart raced as he stared at the message on his phone. The name flickered in his mind like a bad dream surfacing, and it sent a shiver down his spine. It was a name he swore he'd never hear again, David. They had shared the same high school, the same clashing worlds, wealth and poverty, until their paths diverged in a mess that left Jake shattered. His finger hovered over the screen. Should he respond? Would it be wise to engage with someone from his past now that he had found purpose in this community? Fear gripped him, the kind that wrapped around his chest and felt like a vice. But curiosity tugged at him too. What could David possibly want? Deciding to face the uncertainty head-on, Jake took a deep breath and quickly typed back, "What's this about?" It didn't take long for a reply. "Can't discuss this over text. Meet me tomorrow at Java Corner. 2 p.m. Please trust me. It's important." Just like that, he was thrust back into a world he hoped to forget. Java Corner was the cafe where the elite gathered, and it felt as foreign to him as a castle made of ice. Could he bear to walk back into that scene not as the scared teenager he once was but as someone who had created success from grit and toil? As the hours passed, any inclination of sleep evaded him. His mind spiraled, caught in a whirlwind of memories, the opulence of the parties he sneaked into and the glances he strained to ignore from those who looked down on him. He remembered the sacrifices his family made and, above all, the moment he decided to escape that life. When morning came, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He stood in front of the mirror, missing the reflection he used to see, a carefree man willing to take risks. Now, he was layered in apprehension and doubt. Should he change before facing David? A part of him wanted to appear triumphant, polished. But the truth was he felt far from it. At 1:30 p.m., he slipped on his best shirt, nervously fidgeting with the collar while glancing at the clock. Time crept slowly, and every tick only magnified his anxiety. As he drove to the cafe, his heart hammered against his chest, each thud echoing his growing urge to turn back, but when he arrived, the sight of Java Corner sent a rush of memories flooding in again. The laughter, the clattering of cups. He took a deep breath and pushed through the door, the bell chiming above him. David was already seated at a corner table, casually leaning back, dressed in an expensive suit, as if he had just walked off a magazine cover. Jake's stomach twisted. Were they so different now, or just masked versions of who they used to be? "Jake," David greeted, the confidence in his voice rubbing Jake the wrong way. "Thanks for coming." Before Jake could respond, David launched into a story about investments, community initiatives, and bettering lives. It sounded rehearsed, and Jake's heart sank. "This community," Jake finally interjected, his voice rising with emotion, "it means everything to me." "Why are you really here?" David hesitated, the warmth draining from his eyes. "I need you to understand," he began, "there's something about our past that's coming back, and it involves you. What I reveal could change everything." The weight of those words hung between them, dense with unspoken histories. As doubt surged in Jake's chest, he braced himself for the storm that was about to unfold. Could their past connect with the future he was trying to build? What did David know that could threaten everything he was working toward? Jake's heart raced as he prepared to delve deeper into revelations yet to come. The air in the cafe felt electric, and he had no idea what awaited him next. Would the truth empower him, or would it unravel everything he had fought for? Jake's pulse quickened. The tension between him and David crackled like static in the air. Could this be about that time in high school? The dark secrets they had buried deep when everything fell apart? Jake's mind whirred, trying to piece together the fragments of their youth. David's voice drew him back, the urgency lacing his words. "You need to listen to me carefully. It's not just a personal matter, it's about your family." Those words hit Jake like a punch in the gut. His family. His parents had sacrificed so much, always trying to shield him from the worst parts of their world. What could David possibly know that tied back to them? It felt like a trap, and doubt began to gnaw at him. David leaned forward, lowering his voice as if hiding from prying ears. "After we parted ways, I stumbled upon something: documents, notes, correspondence. It has everything to do with that time we spent together. You remember? The summer when things unraveled?" Jake swallowed hard. He could see the flickering memory of long nights, whispered fears, and a friendship that stumbled in the dark. "What do you mean? And why should I trust you?" David sighed, running a hand through his meticulously styled hair. "Because, despite everything, I've always respected you. You fought your way out of our world, Jake. But you deserve to know what's been hidden. And it's more than just a threat to you. It's your family's legacy." Jake's heart clenched. "My family's legacy?" The words felt heavy, like a rock lodged in his throat. "What does that mean?" The expression on David's face shifted, losing some of its bravado. "I've been in touch with people who can help us understand better. There's a company, an estate left to you, but there are strings attached. Forces that want it buried. If you get lost in the details, you may never find it." His stomach dropped. A company? An estate? What did that even mean for him? He had turned his back after high school, focused on building something from nothing, determined to make a life for himself in the community that embraced him. Yet here was David, weaving a tale tangled in the past. How is this even connected to what I've built? The anger welled up in him, and he struggled to keep his tone steady. "I've worked hard to distance myself from all of that." "Because, Jake," David countered, frustration edging his voice, "it's who you are. Whether you like it or not, it's part of your identity. You can't just sweep it under the rug." Jake clenched his fists, running through every moment he struggled to escape. He didn't want to think of his past as a reflection of him. "What do you want from me, David?" David leaned back, a flicker of uncertainty flashing in his eyes. "I didn't come here to make demands. I came because I believe you deserve the truth. It's your choice what happens next." But I'm not the enemy in this. There's more at stake here than you realize. Jake's hands trembled, the weight of David's revelations settling over him like fog. Could uncovering the truth truly lead to reconciliation with his identity, or would it merely unearth the wounds he thought had healed? As Jake stared at David, the air thick with tension, he felt a mix of anger and anticipation surging through him. Could he dare to dig deeper into the shadows of their shared history? How can I trust you? He asked, locking eyes with David. Why should I believe any of this? David held his gaze for a long moment. The barista behind the counter bustled around, oblivious to the storm brewing at the table. Finally, David opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the cafe's door swung open, a gust of cold wind rushing in, catching Jake's attention that he turned to see an unfamiliar figure stepping through the threshold. The air shifted, and he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever secrets awaited were about to collide with the present in a way he never expected. Who was this newcomer, and how would they fit into an already fragile equation? Jake's heart raced as the stranger stepped into the cafe. Each footfall was steady, purpose-filled, as if they were searching for something specific amidst the clatter of cups and the low murmur of conversation. The figure pulled off a heavy coat, revealing a tailored suit underneath. Jake tried to catch a glimpse of their face, but the stranger kept their heads slightly bowed, framed by a dark beanie that obscured their features. Despite the cold outside, the air seemed to warm around this person, sweeping a sense of anticipation throughout the cafe. Is that David whispered, his voice barely audible over the background noise. Could it be? Jake's stomach nodded. He felt the pull of a gravitational force he couldn't fully understand. Was this person connected to the tangled web David had just laid out before him? The newcomer advanced through the cafe, seemingly scanning the room. When their gaze finally landed on Jake and David, a spark of recognition flickered in their eyes. Jake's breath caught. Panic shrouded his thoughts like storm clouds ready to burst. Excuse me, the stranger said, voice low yet carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. Jake Parker? It felt surreal to hear his name roll off a stranger's tongue. Who are you? Jake demanded, trying to sound composed while his heart raced. What do you want? I'm here to talk to you about your family. The stranger's voice was steady, cutting through the noise of the cafe like a knife. It's important we meet in private. Why should I trust you? Jake shot back, his defenses activated. He could feel David's eyes on him, sensing the shift in the atmosphere around them. Because, the figure replied, pulling off their beanie to reveal a familiar face that made Jake's breath hitch. It was someone he did know. Someone from the past. I'm Emma. You might not remember me, but we had a connection during that summer when everything went wrong. Memories surged, days filled with laughter, warmth, and a bittersweet sense of innocence. Emma had been a glimmer of hope amid the darkness. Emma? He repeated, voice unsteady. Why are you here? It's been years because, she interrupted, urgency creeping into her tone, it's not just history that's been buried. There are things about your family left untold, and I think you deserve to know. Jake felt a rush of conflicting emotions: shock, fear, and a deep-seated desire for clarity. What do you know? I've been working on unraveling the ties that bind you to your family legacy, she explained, glancing around to ensure they were still unobserved. Your life is entwined with forces that want to keep the truth from you. The estate, the company, it's all part of a much larger picture. David leaned closer, clearly invested in Emma's words. You can trust her, Jake. She's not here to hurt you. Jake battled with a flood of questions. Did he really want to dive into this world again? Could facing his family's past deliver the answers he didn't even know he was seeking? I don't know what to think, Jake managed finally, the weight of indecision heavy in the air. What if it opens up something I can't handle? Emma reached out, a reassuring gesture. You're not alone in this. You never were. Her words hung in the air. Jake felt the tension inside him coil tighter, a mix of fear and a flicker of hope. Would confronting his family's legacy finally provide a sense of belonging? Or would it tear open scars he thought had healed, as he locked eyes with Emma, the echoes of their past filled him with a burst of longing and trepidation. He knew he stood at a crossroads, ready to choose a path that could alter everything. "Let us go somewhere we can talk," Jake said, finally summoning the courage beneath his uncertainty. As he stood to follow Emma, his resolve amplified. There was no turning back now. The truth was waiting just beyond the horizon, and he was ready to confront whatever waited in the shadows of his family's history. But was this truth a beacon of hope or a siren song leading him to ruin? Jake followed Emma out of the cafe, a whirlwind of emotions raging within him. Each step felt heavier, the weight of his past pressing down like an anchor. Outside, the cold air hit him in sharp contrast to the warmth inside, and he shivered, though it wasn't from the chill. The significance of their reunion settled over him, a blanket of nostalgia intertwined with rising fears. "Where are we going?" Jake asked, glancing back at David, whose face was etched with concern. "To a place where we can speak freely," Emma replied, leading him down the street, her pace brisk. "There's a lot we need to cover." As they walked, Jake's mind raced back to that summer they shared. He remembered their laughter echoing through golden fields, late-night conversations under star-filled skies, and the promise that they would always be there for each other. But life had pulled them apart, shrouding those memories in dust and silence. "What happened to you, Emma?" he finally voiced, needing to bridge the gaps of lost time. "Things seemed different afterwards." Emma paused, her shoulders tensing slightly. "It was complicated. I had to leave, to protect myself and others. But I never forgot you. I kept track. I wanted to be there, but things got messy, Jake. They always do when family is involved." "Family," he echoed, the word tasting bitter in his mouth. He had spent years trying to escape from his family's shadow but now felt the pull tightening once again. "What do you mean by family? What's this about my family that I don't know?" Emma turned to him, her gaze serious. "Your father's past isn't just a family secret, it's a scandal that could shatter everything you think you know about him and you. It could tear your life apart again." Jake's pulse quickened at the thought. The way she spoke felt both like a warning and an invitation. "So what is it? What are you saying?" Let's just say she hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "Your family's legacy is tainted, but there is hope. There are pieces that connect your family to something greater than you've been told. You have a choice, to uncover the truth or to remain in the dark." As they approached a secluded park, Emma stopped. The trees, painted with the last hues of autumn, formed a natural barrier, shielding them from passers-by. "I found something, Jake," she said quietly, lowering her voice. "Something that connects you directly to the estate. To your father's past." A sudden breeze rustled the leaves, matching the rush of trepidation clawing at Jake's chest. He felt caught between nostalgia and dread. Did he truly want to unearth these secrets? Would this awaken more pain or offer him the closure he needed after all these years? "Why now, Emma? Why come back after all this time?" he pressed. "What changed?" "Because it's your turn to decide who you want to be," she replied, her eyes steady and earnest. "You can take control of your narrative, but you need to know the truth first. And to find that truth, we have to dig deep." His heart pounded louder, the gravity of her words weighing on him. He felt as if the ground beneath him was shifting. "Do you really think I can face it all?" Jake asked, the vulnerability of his question hanging in the air. Emma stepped closer, her presence grounding him. "You are stronger than you know, Jake. And you won't have to do it alone. We'll face this together." In that moment, Jake realized this journey wasn't just about his family, it was also about reclaiming his own story. Yet, as he stood on the precipice of revelation, a nagging fear gnawed at his resolve. "Then let us do it," he said finally, setting his jaw with determination. "Let us find out the truth." But as Emma reached for her bag, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead could reshape his very identity or destroy it entirely. That gnawing doubt intertwined with determination as they prepared to dig into the shadows that surrounded his upbringing. "What are we looking for?" he asked, a whisper of worry seeping into his voice. Emma took a breath, her expression steeling. Everything. And I mean everything. At that moment, Jake felt the world tilt, the weight of the unknown draping over him like a storm. Was he truly ready to confront this? The moment of truth was racing towards him, and he wondered if he was prepared to meet it head-on or if he would wish he'd turned back when he had the chance. Jake stood beside Emma, heart hammering in his chest at the weight of her words. Everything could change. The very fabric of who he was felt at stake, yet hope flickered like a candle in the shadows. He took a deep breath, uncertain yet determined. "Let us do this," he said softly, but conviction surged in his voice. Emma nodded, her gaze steady. "We'll start with your father's old documents, any legal things we can find. We need to see if there's anything tying you to the estate, something we can unravel together." As they walked toward the park's edge, Jake felt both anticipation and dread intertwining in his stomach. Memories of his father long buried clawed at the edges of his mind. They were never the best of friends, and Jake often felt he lived in his shadow. But what if there was more to his father than the world saw? They settled on a bench, the leaves rustling like whispers of long-forgotten secrets. Julia, Emma's friend, joined them a few minutes later, holding a stack of files. The urgency thrummed in the air. "Here are the papers," Julia said, her voice steady despite the weight of the task ahead. "They contain things I suspect were never shared with you after your father died." Jake's heart sank at that word. The mere mention turned the world upside down. "What do you mean?" Emma leaned closer, her eyes serious. "Your father was involved in business dealings that had consequences. These dealings could directly affect the legacy he left behind and what you might inherit." With shaky hands, Jake opened the stack of papers. Tax records, business agreements, names that struck a chord. "Why didn't I know about any of this?" "Because some truths are buried deep," Julia replied, her eyes reflecting understanding and sympathy. "But we're here now. That matters." As Jake sifted through the documents, a name bubbled to the surface: Redfern and Company. A chill ran through him. He remembered the hushed conversations he overheard as a kid, the tension in his parents' voices when that company came up. "What is Redfern and Company?" he asked, looking up at them. Emma leaned back. "They were your father's biggest client. However, there were rumors something shady. Your father was trying to sever the ties before he died," Jake finished, the echo sending jolts of revelation through him. "Did he die because of this?" The silence felt suffocating, pressing against his chest. Emma took a deep breath, and the world momentarily stopped. "It's possible. But we don't know for sure yet," she admitted, pain flickering in her eyes. "Is there anyone you can talk to?" Jake urged, pushing away his fear. "Anyone who'd know what the real story is?" Julia glanced at Emma, then nodded. "There's a former employee, someone who left the company under strange circumstances. He might know things. Can you get in touch?" Jake pleaded, urgency infusing his tone. "I need to understand all of this." They shared glances, clarity shining in their eyes. "Of course, we'll reach out and see what he knows," Emma promised. "But you need to prepare yourself for the truth, no matter how bitter it might be." As they wrapped up, Jake could feel a shift within him. It wasn't just the mystery of his family that he was unraveling, it was a closer connection to the community he had come to love. Whatever he found out would not just affect him but would tie back to Maple Grove, its people, its roots. "Thank you for believing in me," Jake said, looking between Emma and Julia with gratitude glimmering in his eyes. "This means a lot." They made their plans, and as the autumn sun began to set, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose thrumming within him. This was not just a quest for answers. It was about embracing his identity and his community, both of which had always been intertwined. The next few days flew by as they conducted research, reached out to contacts, and began piecing together the fragments of Jake's past. The tension hung heavy in the air, but there was also a budding excitement. Jake believed he was getting closer to discovering who his father really was, who he truly was beneath the weight. of the fabricated identity he created, and then, it happened. A breakthrough came when Emma received a call from the former employee, who agreed to meet. "Are you ready?" Emma asked, standing beside Jake as they prepared to leave. Jake took a deep breath, standing taller than ever. More than ever. As they drove to the meeting, he reflected on everything his beloved community had provided him: love, support, understanding. He knew this was it. The moment where his two lives would collide, where he would either find clarity or lose everything he had fought to build. Just before they arrived, Emma glanced over at him, her voice warm with encouragement. "No matter what happens, remember you're not alone in this. You've built something incredible here." Jake nodded, heart beating faster. Whatever unfolded next, he felt a strength rising from the community that had welcomed him, one that was resilient and worthy of every fight, no matter how daunting the truth loomed. As they walked into the cafe where they were to meet the former employee, Jake knew the answers awaited him. The universe had drawn him to this pivotal moment, and he felt unshakable. "Let us hear what he has to say," Jake murmured, bolstered by Emma and Julia's presence. This was all part of the journey toward healing, of bridging the gaps of the past and embracing a future filled with promise and connection, however challenging it might be. The narrative was about to unfold, and he was ready. With a heart full of hope, Jake stepped inside, prepared to confront the shadows ahead. This embrace of the unknown was just the beginning. Now, this is your moment, dear reader. Don't let it slip away. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.